Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel Bricks and Life, where we talk about bricks and life. In today's video, we are going to talk about how I display my Lego collection. Primarily, we are going to be focusing in on the shelving units that I use to display my Lego collection. And these shelving units that you see right now and the arrangement of how everything is set up right now has not always been the case in this room, as you are going to see as I take you on a journey over the evolution of this space and how my Lego collection has looked over the years. We're also going to talk about the challenges of this particular space, as you can see just from the unique angles of the ceiling, and we'll talk about that and the room overall. So let's go ahead and dive into it now. Okay, let's talk about this room for a quick second. This room is the room that the Lego collection is currently housed in. When we moved into this house about 13 years ago, this is a room that sits above our garage, and it was, in essence, an extra room. It was a spare room. It was a guest room, and so we decided that we wanted it to be a multi-purpose room, a multi-use room. And by multi-use, what I mean by that is simply that, for example, when family would come and stay with us, they would stay in this room. This couch folds out into a bed and they would sleep in here. And we had a TV in here if somebody wanted to come up here and watch a show or watch a movie. We had a gaming system for the kids or their friends when they were younger and they would have sleepovers. They would have them in this room to watch a movie, to play gaming. Or over in this section, this little nook area, it used to be several things. This used to be a sewing area. This used to be a craft area. Some of the kids' larger toys would kind of hang out in here, so that, again, when they had friends over, they could play in this area. They could watch a show, play a video game, hang out, do whatever. Again, this was a multi-purpose, multi-use space, and my wife wanted to make sure that it remained that way. So when the Lego collection began to grow in size, she just asked, hey, you can have this little nook area, and we'll talk about the challenges of this nook area in just a second, but she was like, if you can keep all the Lego in this area, that would allow us to keep the rest of this space as a multi-use and a multi-purpose room. Now, obviously, my Lego collection has grown to the point where it's starting to spill over into the rest of the room, and that is a challenge that all of us have, right? What do you do when you start running out of space with your Lego collection? Do you stop collecting altogether and stop buying Lego? No, that's ridiculous, right? Instead, you have to be selective about what you buy, what you don't buy, what you build, what you don't build, what you display, and what you tear down and rotate out for another day, right? So it's this ever evolving game with that. But even though I am spilling out over into the rest of the room, this still remains a multi-purpose room. When family and friends come over, this is still where they stay. My son, who's in high school, had a couple of friends over the other night, and they came and hung out in this room and to check out the collection, also to watch a show as well. So that was important for my wife. It's important for me. And so I just wanted to give you a little context to why this whole room is just not covered in bookshelves and Lego wall to wall. Maybe one day we'll get there, but that day is not here. So anyways, just want to give you a little context. And now I want to talk about this space and the challenges of this little nook right here. So one of the challenges is just the layout of the space and the dimensions. Not to mention the slope ceilings there, but when you measure this nook area, if you measure from this wall all the way over, not to this wall, but to this wall back here, you have about 10.5 feet from wall to wall. If you're to measure the depth of this space from here all the way to the back, this is about 7.5 feet. Now, however, this does not line up with that side, so this is probably short by about 5 to 6 inches. So let's just say from here to there, this is 7 feet. And then from the floor to where the roof begins to slope, the ceiling begins to slope, this right here, this is about 4.5 feet. So it's got some unique dimensions. In addition to that, it also has attic access doors. So you have one on the left and you have one on the right. And we still needed to be able to have access to these doors because we utilize them. And back behind here, this is where we keep the family luggage. Here's my Lego suitcase there. Hello, friend. And then over here, behind the tables, there's a bunch of file boxes and a lot of paperwork back there. So it's a tight fit. I'm not a tiny man, but I can access everything that we need to. So between the attic access doors, between the slope of the roof, and just the unique dimensions of this space, this was a challenge. And I like a good challenge, but I knew the solution was not going to be as easy as just going to IKEA and buying a bunch of Billy bookcases and just putting them all along the wall there, because attic access doors. And also, I don't know if just having bookcases up against the wall all the way around was going to help me optimize this space like I wanted to display as many Lego sets as I possibly could. So that was a challenge. The other challenge too, because this is a multi-purpose room, my wife was like, hey, when it comes to shelving, I don't want you to throw up just any shelving. I want you to throw up shelving that matches the vibe of this room that, you know, she has going on here, which I totally respect that. So I was like, okay, there's a lot to process here. There's a lot to discern. How do I want to lay this whole thing out? And these glass cases right here, we'll talk about these a little bit later in the video. These were definitely game changers for this space. So what I want to do is kind of take you on a journey through the evolution of this space. Over 12 to 13 years of collecting, I have done a lot wrong when it comes to displaying my Lego, as you will see here in some pictures that I am a bit horrified to show you. But I've also learned some things along the way that has helped get my collection to the place that it is now. And I like this space. I like the way it looks. I like the way that we're maximizing every square inch that we possibly can. Obviously, we're overflowing now a little bit out of the nook and into the room. My wife has reminded me of that time and time again. But anyways, let me take you on a journey now, and let's see the evolution of how we got here. So the first picture I want to show you as we take a look at the evolution of the Lego space and the way that it's been displayed. This one is from 2015. And as you can see, the nook area really was just a blank canvas still. We did have a table and a chair set up in that area. That is where we would build Lego sets, obviously. That is where kids would do craft things. That's where they would sometimes do homework as well. And the only shelving that we had in that space actually was from IKEA. It was one of those cubed shelving. It's like 3 high and 3 across. So there were 9 total cube spaces that you could put, which where we put our Lego collection on display. And so in this picture, my kids are building some of their Christmas presents with me. And my daughter Kennedy is building a Lego friend set that she received for Christmas. My son Nash is building Poe's X-Wing that he got for Christmas. And then I, as you can see there, I am building the Death Star set 10188. And I got that for Christmas. But I just show you this picture to show this is how it started. When I say it was a multi-purpose, multi-use, it really was just a blank space that we made work for whatever that we needed. So over time, our Lego collection began to grow, and that nook area not only was a space for the kids, but it was also a space for my wife as well. I mentioned that there was a sewing area in that little nook, and this piece of brown furniture represents that sewing area. This actually came from my wife's grandmother, who had passed, and so she left this for my wife, and it was her sewing. There's like a sewing machine that rises up from the top. There's all sorts of yarn and things underneath that. Like, it's impressive, but it also weighs a ton, and we had to carry that thing all the way upstairs to put it there in that nook area of the guest room. Now, my wife did not rush to learn how to sew. She definitely took her time with that. And so this piece sat there for quite a few months. And as with anything, when it sits in a multi-use space, I'm going to leverage it for what I need it to. And so as our Lego collection began to grow substantially, I utilized this piece of furniture as a display area. As you can see, I put all the Imperial sets there, the Empire, and then in the next picture that you see here, this is where we moved that IKEA cubed shelf to the right side of the nook area. So we kind of opened up the middle space for people to kind of hang out and play and stuff like that. But as you can tell, this cubed thing, shelving area not only housed all of the Rebel sets from Star Wars, but also every set that we had, and not just my sets, but also my kids. So Kennedy and Nash, we have their sets in there as well. So as you can see, it is beginning to grow and become expansive, and we are quickly outgrowing that little IKEA cubed shelf, and then also even the sewing machine on the left side of the room. So we kind of had to figure out some things of what we wanted to do. Again, I didn't know exactly what to do, what I wanted, how I wanted it to look. I just knew I loved Lego and began to collect a lot of sets, as you can see. So this next era of the Nook area, I am embarrassed to show you, but I want to keep it real. Again, I've learned a lot, but I've done some things wrong, and this would represent the error of not doing it right at all. So over time, that sewing machine that you just saw, my wife was not using it, and so we decided to move it downstairs into our basement that is unfinished. We thought, hey, let's put it down there. Maybe she would be more inclined to use it down there because there were some other things down there that the family could hang out, and so she thought maybe I'll do it more down there. So we moved it, and in place of that, my daughter, I think this was for Christmas, so this might be a year or two later. I'm not exactly sure of my timeline here, but she got a big Barbie house for Christmas. And so we wanted to put, that wasn't going to fit in her room. So we put it in this section for her to come and play. But as you can see, when Grandma's sewing machine piece of furniture went away, all of a sudden the Imperials and the Empire had nowhere to go as far as shelving. So they hit the floor, as you can see. And that was definitely not ideal, but again, we made the best of it. And again, I will apologize and say I had no idea what I was doing. And as I look back at these pictures, and especially the value of some of these sets now, back then they were just sets to me, but now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just set them there on the carpet, just laid out, no big deal. And then on the right side, we still had the IKEA cube shelf, and that represented the lone storage that we had. And as you can see from those pictures, it was overflowing in that area with sealed sets, sets that we built that were on display. At that time, I was still keeping boxes, which was a mistake. But it was chaos, friends. And having that lone IKEA cube shelf in the Barbie house, it was a sad time as I look back on these pictures. And but anyways, you live and you learn. Now, I will say, when we did clean up that space and organized it some degree, we took my daughter's Barbie house and made that the centerpiece of the room. And then we kind of cleaned up the Lego sets and divided them up. Again, Imperials on one side, Good Guys on the other side, along with everything else that we owned. And I gotta say, it looked pretty good, but, you know, keeping your sets on the floor where like carpet fibers and sets get knocked over, or when people are walking by, especially my kids at this age, my daughter's going to play with her playhouse and gets excited. She accidentally knocks something over. Like, it just happened. And again, this is not ideal, but I just wanted to show you where this room has come from over the years. We have come from Barbie houses and IKEA cubed shelves to what we have today. But to appreciate what you have today, you have to sometimes look back and see how far you have come as well. So when it was cleaned up and organized, it didn't look too bad, but again, keeping your whole collection on the floor is definitely not an ideal solution or something I would recommend. Now, this next picture I'm showing you is the next evolution of the space. This is actually after one of my son's many Star Wars battles that he would have at that time. And please note, this was years ago when these sets that we had, they weren't like retired and worth the money that they are now. And again, we had parameters and ground rules for his battles. But this is, I show you this picture to show you the next piece of shelving that came into that space. And this is what we affectionately call Big Blue. This was an antique bookshelf that my wife found at some antique boutique for like $25. And we bought it to put in there to help give some much needed storage to that area. So that took front and center. We left the IKEA shelving off to the right, and we moved the Barbie house back over to the left along with some other storage that my daughter had. So in this next picture that you see, you can see it kind of filled up and organized, and it looked pretty good. I gotta say, this thing, we packed a lot of Lego onto this shelf. Like there on the top, you can see the Ewok Village, you can see the shuttle, you can see Krennic shuttle. Like we packed it all in there. The next picture shows you the Death Star. It shows you the MTT there in the background, TIE Fighter, all those things. Like I tried to maximize that as best as I could. And then down below that, we have some AT-ATs, we have Hoth, along with a bunch of other sets and the Imperial Star Destroyer. So just a lot that we were able to cram inside of Big Blue. And then off to the side of Big Blue, I still had the Millennium Falcon in the box. We'll talk about that in another video about my experience with that set and why I left it in the box and didn't build it. But while we had it, not only did it look good in the box, but I also used it as shelving as well, where I put some of the sets from Rebels. So as you can see, Big Blue was a welcomed addition to that little nook area, as it got a lot of the sets, not all of them, but it did get a good number of them up off the carpet and onto some shelving. So I mentioned earlier how these glass shelves that are in the Lego room were the game changer for displaying my Lego collection. The story behind them is that my wife called me one evening. She was out shopping at a local boutique, antiques and different stuff in there. And unfortunately, that business was going out of business, that store was. And so they were liquidating all of not only their product, but also their shelving in the store. So she had called me and said, hey, there's some really nice shelving here that might be a great fit for your Lego collection. And when your wife calls you from an antique boutique and says there's some shelving here you might want to use, I wasn't really excited about it initially, but I'm so glad I went down there, because when I went down there and saw these shelves, I was just like, man, these are going to be perfect, just because it will allow me to pack so many sets onto the display and showcase the Lego in a really unique way in the round, which was just awesome. And so the rule was that you had to disassemble the shelves and take them with you and transport them. They weren't going to do any of that, which I was totally fine with. So I brought some screwdrivers down and I started disassembling these things. And as you can see in these pictures, there's just some screws that hold each piece of glass together. Like when I'm putting them together, I'm just like, this thing is going to break. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a mess. But these things are heavy duty and they are sturdy. I will say the only thing that is starting to deteriorate is the actual plastic screws inside. And there's a lot of them. So I need to replace some of them, but I'm not quite sure. Haven't found yet where I can find some replaceable ones. So if you happen to know, please drop that in the comments. I would so appreciate it. So I brought those shelves back to the nook area. And as you can see, we set one up on the left-hand side, one on the right-hand side, and they look so good. And we wanted to keep that space open. So we decided to move Big Blue out of the nook area and put Big Blue in the hallway. And that's where it continues to rest today, where we have some library books and Harry Potter books and some Harry Potter display stuff. So it lives in the hallway. And instead, we brought the IKEA cubed shelf. So that thing just will not die. And that thing came back and we put it there in front of the window along with the glass shelves. And at this point too, my son's collection began to move into his room and he displayed some stuff in there. So this nook area was really becoming just my sets. That was basically at that time, majority Star Wars, some Harry Potter, and a little bit of space as well, and some miscellaneous sets here and there. But this served us well for a period of time as the collection began to grow, and then we moved on to something else. The next evolution of the space was actually replacing that IKEA cubed shelf. We decided it was time to retire that thing. What we replaced it with is this shelving that is actually from Pottery Barn. Now, I'm not a fan of buying expensive shelving for Lego, but when I mentioned that the room is a multi-use, multi-purpose room, that my wife asked, hey, in your shelving solutions, please make sure they match the vibe of the room. Well, our TV stand we bought from Pottery Barn Outlet probably about 13 years ago, got on a good deal, and so it's been in our family for a long time. And so she wanted to find some shelving that kind of matched that would go along with everything else in the room that she was putting together. So again, we kept an eye out for the outlets to find the best deal that we could, and we bought this shelving piece that you see in this picture. And again, this allowed us to put so much Lego on there. So you can see the 2 glass shelves, and we have that new bookcase that is there, and we were really happy with that. And that lasted for about another year or two, and then we had one more change. That change that I mentioned is that we decided to get new carpet for the house. So when you are replacing carpet, it is basically just like moving. You have to kind of get everything up off the floor and move things out of there, especially your Lego collection. So I had to haul everything down, as you can see in this picture. We set up some folding tables down in the basement in the gym area, and I moved the entire collection from that room in that nook area and filled up one side of the basement and filled up the other side as well, and cleared out the guest room so that we could make way for the new carpet. And since we were going to do new carpet, and since we were going to we were taking all of the Lego out of this room, I decided to say, hey, let's go ahead and finish it off, and let's add a few new shelving units in there. Because again, over time, I think another year or two went by, the collection continued to grow and things were starting to wind up on the floor again. And so I wanted to add some more shelving that could be a dual purpose of displaying my Lego, but also one day when my Lego collection probably outgrows this nook area and I have to move it somewhere else, whether, like my daughter, she's 15, she would love to move into this space. And she's like, you take my room and make it a Lego room, but if I move into there, all this furniture, besides the glass round shelves, all that would stay in this bedroom because, again, it's part of the multi-purpose room. So anyways, we got those shelves, we put those in, and we got that gold shelf there on the side that you see. And this is the current setup that you see in the Lego room, minus any of the Lego sets that are on there. And I really don't think it's going to change any more than what you see here. Again, because this is a multi-purpose room, a multi-use room, this is never going to become wall-to-wall Lego. And I really feel like the current setup that is in there really is the most optimized use of that space. The challenge I will have is just rotating sets in and out of things that I want to buy, things that I want to build, things that I'm going to store away for another day. And yeah, one day down the road, I will probably, when, one of my kids moves out, gets married, and, I'll probably take their room and then put a lot of shelving in there, and that will become the new Lego room. But for right now, this is it. I'm totally happy with it. Love the displays, love the cabinetry that we have in there, and just love the way that it looks. All right, well, that is going to wrap up the evolution of this nook space and my Lego collection on display. You have seen it at its worst, and you have seen it as it currently is, and hopefully along the way, something has inspired you when it comes to displaying your own Lego collection. Well, that's going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a like, and please consider subscribing to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, take care and thanks for watching. Bye.